The story begins in a way that immediately fractures common sense and unsettles the reader's instincts. The narrator's father is not a man, nor a spirit wearing human skin, but a withered, spotted, strayed dog. This revelation is not delivered gradually or metaphorically. It is imposed violently through ritual, authority, and bloodline. On the narrator's 7th birthday, instead of gifts or celebration, a strange procession arrives at his home. From a distance, the child sees a wave of red, robes, banners, ceremonial cloth, moving toward the gate. At the front are men striking gongs and drums, their sound tearing through the air with ritualistic intensity. At the center of the procession, 8 men carry a crude platform covered in straw mats. Lying upon it is an old, emaciated dog, its body mottled with age and illness, its eyes clouded but strangely alert. This is not a funeral, nor is it an act of mockery. It is a welcoming ceremony. The grandfather steps forward with solemn composure and greets the leader of the procession as if receiving a noble guest. Words are spoken, knees hit the ground, fireworks explode in the distance, and the child stands frozen, overwhelmed by noise, color, and fear. When the ritual pauses, the grandfather calls the boy forward and gives him a command that shatters the remaining structure of his childhood. "Call it your father." The child refuses instinctively. He shakes his head, cries, and pulls back. But under the silent, unyielding gaze of his grandfather, a gaze that carries not cruelty but absolute authority, resistance collapses. The boy forces the word out, "Father." At that moment, the old dog begins to weep, not metaphorically. Tears slide from its eyes. The ritual continues. The child is made to kneel. He bows, he obeys. By the time it ends, memory blurs. What remains is only the certainty that something irreversible has occurred. The dog is carried away, not back into the wild, but to a Taoist temple on nearby Qingyu Mountain. From that day forward, the child's life is split cleanly in two. He visits the temple often, bringing food to the dog. During festivals, he bows and performs rites instead of playing with other children. The dog never speaks, but its presence is heavy, protective, watchful, and deeply unnatural. At the temple, an elderly Taoist priest begins to teach the boy. He teaches him talismans, geomancy, breathing techniques, and the logic of yin and yang. Yet the priest refuses to formally accept him as a disciple. Instead, he instructs the boy to bow to the 3 pure ones, stating that his own cultivation is insufficient to bear the karmic weight attached to the child. This refusal is not humility, it is fear. Thus, without a master and without peers, the boy grows up immersed in spiritual knowledge, isolated from the ordinary world, unknowingly standing on the edge of something vast and dangerous. The opening does not seek to comfort the reader. It shocks, destabilizes, and provokes. It establishes that this is not a symbolic tale, nor a sentimental ghost story, but the foundation of a spiritual lineage shaped by taboo, sacrifice, and a bond that defies form. 10 years pass. When the narrator returns to the temple one ordinary day, he senses immediately that something is wrong. The old dog lies motionless. Its fur has dried and hardened, its head lowered as though carved from wood. There is no breath, no movement. Yet when the narrator calls out, preparing to leave the food as he always does, the impossible happens. The dog speaks. Its voice is hoarse, slow, and unmistakably human. "My good son," it says, "live well." Terror strikes first. The bowl slips from the narrator's hands and shatters. His throat locks. He wants to scream, but fear crushes sound from his lungs. The dog struggles to rise, forcing its broken body upright with a will that defies death itself. When I die, it continues, take my left eye, keep it, with you. A tear slides from the corner of its eye. Then the dog exhales once, long, final, and peaceful, and collapses. This time it does not rise again. Strangely, fear does not last. It dissolves into grief. The narrator does not question the command. He seeks out the Taoist priest, who listens in silence. Instead of reacting with shock, the priest bows deeply before the dog's corpse. His hands tremble as he prepares ritual garments and retrieves a consecrated peachwood sword. The dog is seated upright in meditation posture. Chants are spoken. Purification rites are performed. Then the priest instructs the narrator to remove the left eye. There is no blood. The eye comes free as easily as a polished stone. It is cold, smooth, and carries a strange sense of familiarity, as if it has always belonged to the narrator. The priest cries out a final invocation and bows again, his voice heavy with reverence and dread. From that moment onward, the eye is no longer flesh. It becomes an artifact. The dog eye is neither evil nor benevolent. It is a medium, a bridge between the living and the unseen. It grants perception, not power. It reveals truth, not mercy. And it carries the final will of a being who sacrificed its existence to protect a human child. This transformation marks a decisive shift in tone. The story sheds any ambiguity about its nature. This is not a cheap monster tale designed to shock for entertainment. Death here carries weight. Inheritance is paid for in flesh. Spiritual power is bound to loss. The bond between father and son, formed through ritual, bloodline, and silent guardianship, transcends species, form, and death itself. From this point forward, nothing the narrator encounters can be dismissed as coincidence. He is no longer merely someone who has seen the unnatural. He is someone who carries it with him. The engagement appears without warning, like a thread pulled from the dark past and suddenly tightened around the present. It arrives not as a proposal, but as an announcement. One afternoon, a letter sealed in red wax is placed on Qin Hao's desk. The handwriting is formal, almost archaic, and the content is brief, an engagement agreement between the Qin family and the Jiang family, established years ago and now ready to be fulfilled. No explanation is offered, no consent is requested. Qin Hao understands immediately. This is not a matter of romance or alliance. It is karma resurfacing. The Jiang family is wealthy, influential, and deeply rooted in local society. Their estate sits at the edge of the city, sprawling and ornate, designed to project stability and prosperity. From the outside, it looks like a place blessed by fortune. From the moment Qin Hao steps through the gate, he feels something else entirely. The air is heavy. It presses against his chest, subtle but unmistakable. The dog eye stirs behind his vision, reacting to a current of stagnant, distorted energy. This is not the quiet oppression of old ghosts or residual resentment. It is something more dangerous, something alive, restrained, and slowly fermenting. The Jiang family receives him politely, but without warmth. They do not hide their skepticism. To them, Qin Hao is nothing more than a young man from a declining lineage, burdened with strange customs and outdated beliefs. His lack of status is measured, his silence interpreted as weakness. They test him with questions, with dismissive laughter, with casual insults masked as curiosity. You still believe in feng shui? One of them asks with a smile that never reaches the eyes. Qin Hao does not argue. He observes. He sees the layout of the estate, the forced symmetry, the artificial water features, the unnatural alignment of wood and earth. What appears luxurious to ordinary eyes is to him a cage. The structure suppresses movement, locks circulation, and traps energy beneath the ground. This is not accidental. Someone designed this place to seize fortune without understanding the cost. As night approaches, Qin Hao finally speaks. You won't survive the night. The room falls silent. Laughter follows, sharp, offended, dismissive. The Jiang patriarch's expression hardens. He accuses Qin Hao of arrogance, of superstition, of using fear to assert relevance. Servants are ordered to escort him out. Qin Hao does not resist. He leaves without another word. Behind him, the house continues to glow with artificial warmth, unaware that its foundation is already collapsing from within. This is the first true confrontation between the secular world and the path Qin Hao walks. Not swords or spells, just denial versus inevitability. That night, Qin Hao stays at a roadside inn not far from the Zhang estate. The moment he enters, the dog eye opens fully. The inn is wrong. The walls breathe faintly, as though absorbing sound. The air smells damp, carrying traces of decay masked by incense. When the innkeeper hands Qin Hao the key, his hand trembles, not from fear, but from exhaustion. This place has been feeding on him for a long time. Qin Hao does not ask questions. He takes the room. Shortly after midnight, the temperature drops sharply. The candle flickers, then extinguishes itself. Footsteps echo in the hallway, slow, deliberate, heavy with intent. The door creaks open. A woman stands in the doorway. She is visibly pregnant, her belly swollen beyond what should be possible. Her face is pale, her expression blank, her eyes unfocused. Each step she takes leaves a faint wet imprint on the wooden floor, though no blood is visible. This is not an illusion. This is not a lingering spirit. This is an active manifestation. The woman reaches out, her mouth opening in a silent plea or accusation. Qin Hao feels the pressure shift, the yin energy surging violently. The dog eye burns, he moves. This is his first true engagement in combat, and there is no hesitation. A talisman snaps into his palm, igniting with controlled force. He recites a binding incantation, his voice steady, his breathing aligned. The room twists as spiritual pressure collides. The woman screams, not in pain, but in rage. Her abdomen convulses. Something inside her moves. The air splits with a sound like tearing fabric, and the truth reveals itself. The fetus is no longer human. It forces its way outward, wrapped in blackened flesh, its form incomplete but unmistakably hostile. Its presence floods the room with suffocating resentment. A being born not of life, but of accumulated death and misaligned fate. Qin Hao strikes without mercy. The peachwood sword cleaves through the space between realms. Guided by the dog-eye's perception, he sees the energy lines, the anchors binding the creature to this place. One by one, he severs them. The talismans burn out, collapsing into ash as the final strike lands. The demon fetus shrieks once before disintegrating. The woman collapses, dissolving into smoke. Silence returns. Qin Hao stands, alone in the wreckage, chest rising and falling, hands steady. There is no triumph, only clarity. This was not a random haunting. This was the consequence of suppressed forces leaking outward, searching for release. By morning, the innkeeper is gone. The building stands empty, as if abandoned for years. Qin Hao leaves without looking back. Behind him, the night's events echo toward the Jiang estate, where locked energy and human arrogance continue to spiral toward collapse. The line has been crossed. From this moment on, Qin Hao is no longer merely a witness to the unseen. He is an active participant in its reckoning. Dawn breaks over the Jiang estate in silence. By the time the sun rises, the patriarch of the Jiang family is already dying. His condition worsens with terrifying speed. Fever scorches his body, yet his limbs grow cold. His breathing becomes shallow, irregular, as though something is pressing down on his chest from the inside. Doctors are summoned, tests are run. No diagnosis holds. The numbers make no sense. Panic spreads. In desperation, the Jiang family invites Master Liu, a well-known geomancer whose reputation rests on wealth and connections rather than depth. He arrives in fine robes, his confidence loud enough to drown out doubt. After a brief examination, he declares the problem to be depletion, vital essence exhausted by age. His solution is simple: ginseng, old, expensive, and potent. The Jiang family obeys immediately. Bowls of ginseng soup are prepared, thick and bitter. The patriarch drinks it in gulps, believing life itself is being poured back into him. Within hours, his condition collapses. His face turns a sickly shade of green. Veins darken beneath his skin. His pulse surges violently before weakening again. What was once stagnation becomes internal combustion. Master Liu pales. He does not understand what he has done. When Qin Hao is summoned again, the atmosphere has changed completely. There is no arrogance now, only fear. The Jiang family kneels, voices shaking, begging him to intervene. Qin Hao looks once, just once. Then he shakes his head. I won't save him. The words land heavier than any curse. Anger flares, accusations follow. They call him cruel, heartless, unworthy of the engagement agreement. Qin Hao does not respond. When the room quiets, he finally speaks, not as a warning, but as an explanation. The problem isn't illness, it's destiny. He explains that the Jiang patriarch is bound to a fate known as Azure Dragon Reversal. The house they built seized the fortune of a dragon vein, but fortune cannot be stolen without consequence. What rose unnaturally must collapse just as violently. The ginseng, meant to replenish life, only accelerated the imbalance, feeding wood into a fire that had already burned too long without release. To save him, Qin Hao says calmly, would mean bearing his karma. He will not do that. This is the line between ordinary morality and cultivation. To know how to save someone but refuse is not cruelty, it is discipline. A cultivator who interferes recklessly invites the heavens' correction. The Jiang family does not understand. They only hear refusal. That night, the patriarch's condition reaches its peak. His breathing falters, his spirit weakens. The house itself seems to groan, beams cracking faintly under invisible strain. The Jiang family begins to fall apart, not from ghosts or demons, but from the weight of consequences they never believed in. Qin Hao does not leave immediately. At dawn, he returns once more to the Jiang estate, not to save the patriarch, but to draw a boundary. I can tell you how to survive, he says, but I won't act for you. This distinction matters. He instructs them to prepare pure gold, not talismans, not charms, but raw metal. Gold stabilizes earth and anchors scattered energy. He shows them the Shenkei point at the navel, explaining how it governs the balance, between internal and external circulation. With trembling hands, they follow his guidance, inserting the needles exactly as instructed. Qin Hao never touches the patriarch. He speaks, he directs, he corrects their posture, their timing, their breathing. He teaches them how to redirect the violent surge into controlled release. This is not salvation, it is mitigation. The room grows warmer. The patriarch's breathing steadies slightly. The color in his face shifts from green toward gray. He does not recover, but he stabilizes enough to survive the day. Then Qin Hao delivers the final condition. You must leave this house. Not tomorrow, not after recovery, immediately. The Zhang family protests. The house represents their status, their legacy, their success. Qin Hao listens without emotion. This place is no longer a residence, he says. It's a sealed grave. By occupying it, they remain locked within the fate they created. Leaving does not erase karma, but it prevents it from compounding. This is the only mercy the heavens allow. Faced with no alternatives, the Jiang family agrees. Within days, they move out. The estate stands empty, silent, and slowly begins to decay. Cracks form in the walls. Plants wither unnaturally fast. What was once a symbol of prosperity becomes a hollow shell. The patriarch survives, but diminished. His vitality never fully returns. The family's wealth shrinks, their influence fades. This is not punishment, but correction. Qin Hao leaves without ceremony. He neither boasts nor claims credit. He has not broken the laws of heaven, nor challenged them. He has walked precisely along the narrow line permitted to him. This is what true cultivation looks like. Not heroic rescues, not dramatic sacrifices, but knowing exactly where to stop. From this point forward, Qin Hao understands fully. Power is not proven by how many lives one saves, but by how few karmic debts one creates. And the path ahead, now unmistakably clear, will demand that restraint again and again. Qin Hao leaves the Jiang estate behind, but something does not leave him. That night, as he travels alone, the dog eye reacts again, this time not to external yin energy, but to something buried deep within his own consciousness. A dull ache spreads behind his left eye, followed by flashes of fragmented images, earth, darkness, pressure. He stops walking. The memories surface violently, no longer willing to remain sealed. He remembers now. He remembers that he did not merely almost die as a child, he was buried alive. The truth unfolds in fragments, a chaotic night, muffled voices, hands pushing him into a pit meant for someone else. The suffocating weight of soil, the desperate clawing, the moment his breath failed. And then stillness. Death did not come naturally. It came incomplete, interrupted. In that void between life and extinction, two figures appeared. One was his biological father, his face distorted by terror and regret. The other was the dog, not a beast, not an animal, but a presence ancient, resolute, and bound by oath. The dog did not speak then, it acted. Qin Hao remembers the cold, tearing sensation as something was removed from him and replaced with something else, something that allowed him to remain anchored to the world. He remembers the cloth his father used, woven with rare materials and soaked in forbidden methods, wrapping his body to preserve what should have dispersed. He was not revived, he was retained. This is why his destiny feels fractured, why his life never fully aligns with ordinary patterns, why his presence unsettles both humans and spirits alike. He is someone who has crossed the boundary without permission. And the dog eye was the final seal, the last sacrifice ensuring he could see what others cannot, while paying the price of never being truly free of the unseen. When the memories fade, Chin Hao stands motionless for a long time. Understanding settles like ash. From the beginning, his life was not protected by coincidence or luck. It was preserved by calculation, cost, and loss, and that means the forces responsible for his near death have never disappeared. They are simply waiting. The Jiang family was never the end. It was a signal. As Chin Hao continues his journey, patterns begin to emerge, subtle alignments between places, people, and timing. The engagement, the haunted inn, the demon fetus, the collapse of the Jiang estate, none of it was isolated. Someone, somewhere, is rearranging fate. He begins to suspect that his grandfather's disappearance years ago was no accident, nor was the sudden servicing of old agreements and suppressed karmic threads. These are not random eruptions of the supernatural. They are tests or warnings. Chin Hao understands now that his existence itself disrupts balance. To certain forces, he is an anomaly that should not persist. To others, he is a necessary piece, something to be positioned carefully before a greater convergence. The path ahead will not offer clear divisions between enemy and ally. Not every threat will arrive as a ghost or demon. Some will come wearing authority, tradition, or righteousness. Some will demand action in the name of morality, daring him to violate the boundary he has sworn to uphold. And each choice will carry weight. He tightens his grip on the peachwood sword and continues forward, not chasing answers, but preparing for the moment when they can no longer be avoided. This is not the story of a hero who saves everyone. It is the story of someone who walks beside catastrophe without becoming its instrument. The curtain has only just been lifted. If you're intrigued by the hidden logic of fate, the cost of spiritual power, and the kind of horror that doesn't rely on cheap scares, this story is only beginning. Subscribe to the channel to follow the next chapters. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the deeper revelations ahead. And if you enjoy this kind of analysis-driven storytelling, leave a comment. It helps guide what unfolds next. The path of cultivation is long, and some truths only reveal themselves to those willing to keep walking.